Well, good morning. So here's a good question for you, or an interesting question anyway. So what leads us, especially those of you who are in a relationship, what leads us to choose that one person, or maybe two or three or four, to spend our lives with out of the countless others we could have chosen? It's not a bad question. Like, why am I with my partner? Why is anybody with anybody, really? So in Imago theory, we posit that the major reason we seek out this kind of partner is because of the assumption that lies at the very center of what Imago theory and therapy is all about. An Imago match gives us a golden opportunity to restore the original experience of connecting we lost during childhood. Now remember, we're coming from a quantum perspective here. And from that angle, we came into existence with a primal memory of our original nature. Cosmic connecting experienced through resonance with our caretakers. When that connection is ruptured, which it is for all of us because our parents weren't perfect, just as we're not perfect, our unconscious has the memory not only of our original connection, but also of rupture. And to the unconscious, this is about survival. And that's going to be a key point, is that from unconsciously, it's about survival. And last week we said this elusive force operates outside our awareness and without our permission. So the Imago can be seen as a memory of the context in which that survival directive was activated because of a caretaker's failure to be present and supportive of our developmental needs. And it is an attempt to recreate that context with a similar person, an Imago match, to try to turn off the survival signal that was activated in childhood. So again, the unconscious, it's unconscious that, we're not going to survive. So how do we turn that survival signal off? So they're going to look at the author's going to look at 5 things that tend to happen with an Imago match. Number 1, partners trigger each other's feelings and memories, good or bad, that are associated with their childhood caretakers. Now, conventional wisdom says that typically men are attracted to women who resemble their mother and women are attracted to men who resemble their fathers. But an Imago match is gender neutral. The Imago lives outside the realm of logic and reality, so it does not split hairs over whether our caretakers were male or female. Now remember, as the memories of childhood are always a subjective perception of the child, so even persons who are not a precise match can come close enough to hitting the bullseye, which means we could end up falling in love with them. But they have to be a reasonable facsimile. And I see that in the office. Some people are a very tight Imago match, some not so much, but there's typically 1 or 2 things that are important. Number 2, our partners have parallel and equal challenges. They say, despite the fact that partners seem to be coming from opposite sides of the planet, they actually sound quite alike. They may use different words, but they're often describing the same kind of pain. Partner A might say, you never listen to me, and partner B says, well, you never talk to me. Or one says, why don't you ever get close to me? And the other responds, why can't you just leave me alone? These are signs of parallel challenges of equal severity and of the common universal theme that relational stress is behind every individual complaint. All right. Number 3, our partners use complementary defensive styles. Remember we said typically our response to stress or danger is either by maximizing or minimizing. Minimizers constrict their energy when feeling threatened or unsafe, pulling it inward, shutting it down, downplaying its importance, or denying its existence. Maximizers use the opposite strategy. When upset, they expand their energy, discharging it outward by talking, exaggerating, yelling, crying, or other similar tactics. Now remember, neither defensive style is desirable or undesirable. Neither is superior to the other. Both are typical human defensive tactics, knee-jerk behaviors, which we use when feelings of safety and disconnection begin to loom large. Now, in childhood, again, it's a subjective perception of the child, but one child might feel the caretakers are too involved, applying too much structure, while another felt neglect with too little structure. And children, they say, so in response to the caretaker's imperfections, children develop one of two defensive styles, minimizing or maximizing, withdrawal or pursuit, deceleration or escalation. And these defensive styles tend to follow them into adulthood. So then in an intimate relationship, think about it. If there's a charge on an issue, often one person tends to be on the side of talk to me, talk to me, talk to me. The other person tends to be on the side of leave me alone, leave me alone, leave me alone. All right? So they're complementary defensive styles, but then they end up in a relationship. All right, number 4. Our partners have similar maturity levels. Now, again, think about this. Typically, when partners feel on the defensive, they'll use words like you never, you always, every time. And think about it. As adults, most issues aren't all or nothing, black or white. But if any of you have a 3 or 4-year-old, you know that's how they often see the world. Whether they cope with their temporary state of insanity by exploding, maximizing, or imploding, minimizing, partners are usually operating at approximately the same level of maturity, meaning they were arrested around roughly the same developmental stage. And then the last piece they're talking about here, our partners have opposite or complementary blocks in the 4 human functions. And this is sort of a whole nother piece, but they go on to say this final matching factor brings up a related axiom of Imago theory. What is dominant in one partner is recessive in the other. What is dominant in one partner is recessive in the other. Now, think about the 4 human functions: thinking, feeling, acting or moving, sensing. And because our parents weren't perfect, just as we're not perfect, some of a child's needs around those 4 functions weren't met very well. Now, suppose as a child, I was a pretty rambunctious kid, but if that was judged to be inappropriate by my caretakers, my reaction might be to shut that part of me down, the acting or moving function, effectively repressing an organic part of myself. However, the function does not disappear, just its expression. But for all practical purpose, it's missing or lost. In Imago, we refer to that as the lost self. So then the authors go on to say, now think about this in your own relationship. In our experience of observing complementarity in couples, we have discovered that most partners have shut down 2 of their functions, say thinking and feeling, but they give full expression to their other 2 functions, sensing and acting. What is interesting about all this is that partners criticize the functions in the other that are shut down in themselves. It takes 2 people to have the 4 functions in the relationship, and since all 4 are needed to navigate life successfully, nature has paired us with someone we desperately need to provide those that are missing, although we criticize them for having what is missing in ourselves. Now think about it. If it remains unconscious, the reality of an Imago match seems to be like a recipe for disaster. And in Canada, 40% of marriages end in divorce, and we would say of the other 60%, there's a lot there in hot marriages where there's a lot of fighting or a cold relationship where the passion's gone. But if we can reframe the reality of our Imago match, we realize, in fact, we've married our healer. But again, you see why it's so important to become aware, to become conscious. And as they go on to say, an Imago match gives us a golden opportunity to restore the original experience of connecting we lost during childhood. So you're with the right person, but you have to be aware. You have to be conscious. Okay? We'll carry on next week. Have a great week. Thanks.